Brad was walking through the market. He felt tired and emotionally worn out. He was also bored and restless. Brad had been traveling for months, and it was starting to get to him. He missed his family. The pain was not as sharp as before, but he still felt it. He should have been doing this with Vicky. Brad wanted to find something to give him hope, a fresh start. He couldn't just wander aimlessly forever. He needed something steady in his life. He hadn't found it yet. Traveling through different countries and cities was exciting at first. New sights, sounds, smells, and energies. It was all nice, but couldn't fill the void. Even the hard time he got in Beijing because he had visited Taipei, Taiwan, was a bit of an adventure. Brad almost laughed, recalling the questioning in Beijing. An official had asked him directly if he worked for the CIA. Brad laughed, which annoyed everyone there. He had joked that the CIA wasn't as impressive as people thought. They didn't like that. They grilled him for a few hours and then let him go. He didn't know if they followed him in Beijing or not. It didn't matter. He had told them where he had been since leaving the U.S., and they could easily check his story. He thought about going back to Vietnam, maybe spend a year there. His grandfather had been a Marine with 2 tours in Vietnam. He died there, but Brad didn't know where exactly. He felt a pull to go there and travel around the country. Right now, he was tracing the path of American military bases in Southeast Asia from the Vietnam War. This brought him to Thailand. He had flown into Bangkok from Ho Chi Minh City, which used to be Saigon, and then traveled north to Chiang Mai. There had been an army base there once with Green Berets, from what he learned. It was all gone now. Next, he moved southeast to Nakhon Phanom. He was very keen to see this place. It had been a U.S. Air Force base, a special operations wing, close to the Laotian border and near Hanoi. It was important enough to have a C-130 gunship patrol the skies at night. An older man who once worked for Brad had told him about Nakhon Phanom. He was a retired Air Force guy working part-time to keep busy. Brad liked him right away, and they often had lunch together. The man had been stationed there as a security policeman in 1975. NKP, as it was called, had been a secret base back then. Its name was never mentioned outside the area, only a code identified the location. The man had been on Tiger Flight, which was a night shift. There had been fights at that base in the dark hours of 1975, a year after the Vietnam War ended. They were never called battles because the Air Force wasn't allowed to fight on the ground by the National Security Act of 1947. Only the Army or Marines could do that. It was a secret war, fought by a secret squadron of security police. No Army or Marines were near NKP. Back then, the nearest support for NKP was 150 miles away in Korat. Security policemen at NKP took it upon themselves to protect their base. They often sent patrols into the jungle around them to keep the base safe. They did whatever was needed, patrols, ambushes, anything. Despite their efforts, sappers, either Viet Cong or Thai communists, sometimes sneaked into the base to attack the flight line. They were always stopped before they could do any harm. In 1975, while the Americans were at NKP, big groups of Viet Cong or Thai communists tried to take over the base twice. The old man talked about the warning system they had back then. A red Option 1 alert sent to Korat meant the base was under attack. The defenders had 1 hour to secure the base or leave because support from Korat would come in the form of F-4 jets to bomb the whole NKP area. Both times, the alert was canceled within an hour. The second attack lasted 57 minutes before the cancellation was sent out. NKP wasn't going to be handed over to any enemy. Brad had been very keen to see the place. He hired a guide to take him there. It was gone, completely taken back by the jungle. Feeling let down, he moved on to the next base location by bus, Korat. The base at Korat was still there, but he wasn't allowed to get close. He decided to stay a while. He rented a house, which was very easy to do, and gave himself a month before heading to Bangkok. It was an interesting place with friendly people. Strolling through the city was an enjoyable way to spend his time. The markets were lively and colorful. Brad often found himself noticing things that Vicky or the kids would like. One day at the market, a commotion in front of him caught his attention. People were stopping to look and then moved on. Brad stopped to watch. A fruit seller was holding a small boy by the arm. The kid couldn't be older than 10, Brad thought. The seller was very angry, and the boy had a piece of fruit in his hand. The seller shook the boy while a little girl ran up and started hitting the seller's leg. She was younger than the boy and shouted something in Thai which Brad didn't understand. It was clear the boy had tried to steal the fruit. Both kids wore clothes that were barely rags. Brad watched. The situation got serious when 2 police officers arrived. One policeman got angry and started cussing at the boy in Thai. It was clear he was swearing even though Brad didn't know the language. The policeman slapped the boy's face. The little girl was grabbed and shaken hard. She cried her heart out, and Brad thought she might be calling for her parents. No adults came to help the kids. Brad stepped in without realizing it. The police and the seller stopped yelling at the children to look at him. Brad held his hands out open and smiled. "Do you speak English?" "I'm sorry, I don't speak Thai. Can I talk to you for a moment?" Brad kept his voice soft and calm. One police officer, older by the look of him, dragged the little girl over to Brad. She was still crying. "What do you want?" the officer demanded. There was nothing friendly in his tone. Brad kept smiling. "I want to help if I can." "The children? Did they forget to pay?" The police officer looked surprised. "Forget? What do you mean by forget?" Brad smiled again. "The children," he said, pointing to them. "They helped me buy fruit. I asked them to. Help. Do you understand?" "What? You lie, they steal, thief, go to jail." No jail, they help me, I pay. How much for the fruit?" Brad knew that most people in Asia understood some English. His emphasis on pay made his meaning clear. The seller understood pay and squeezed between the 2 officers. "You pay! Yes, you pay!" You could almost hear the excitement in the seller's voice. The police officer glared at the seller, then at Brad. "You lie! You want babies! You hurt babies! That's what you want!" Brad's face twisted in disgust. "Are you crazy?" he snarled. "That's sick! I want to help the kids, not hurt them!" Brad almost lost his temper. The idea of hurting kids made him furious. The older officer studied Brad's face and laughed. Calm, said the officer. "It's okay. You don't want to hurt children, that's good. They still stole. What will you do about that?" It took Brad a few moments to calm down. "I'll pay for the fruit. The seller will say how much. I'll pay." The officer nodded. "Good. But they still stole. Will you pay a fine?" Brad knew what the officer was really asking for. "I pay the fine, no jail? No report?" The officer nodded. "You pay the fine. It's over. No jail, no paper. All done," Brad said with a smile. The shopkeeper nodded back, still smiling. "I pay. How much for the fruit? How much for the fine?" They stood in the hot sun for almost 30 minutes, figuring out a fair price. The shopkeeper made 3 times more than usual for one piece of fruit and kept the stolen one, too. The police were paid extra. Brad handed over the cash right away. In the end, he guessed the whole thing cost him around $18. Not bad at all. But now he had 2 kids with him who didn't speak any English. The little girl was crying, holding the boy's hand. The boy just stared at Brad. Brad smiled at the kids and crouched down to their level. "You hungry? Want to eat?" He pretended to eat, using his hands to show what he meant. The little girl stopped crying and her eyes widened. The boy didn't react until she tugged at his hand. They spoke quickly in Thai. Then the boy looked at Brad and nodded. "Okay then," Brad said. "Let's get some food." There was a small restaurant nearby where Brad had eaten before. The food was tasty, though he never really knew what it was. He decided to take the kids there. Standing up, he offered his hands to them. They were hesitant, but each took a hand. It took about 5 minutes to reach the restaurant. At first, the restaurant owner didn't want the kids inside, but Brad gave her a few bigger baht notes, and she led them to a table at the back. The kids didn't know how to order food. Brad doubted they could even read, so he called the owner and asked her to bring something the kids would like. She laughed and walked away. A few minutes later, she came back with a beer for Brad and drinks that looked like Cokes for the kids. It probably wasn't Coke, but it was close enough and the kids liked it. They were on their 3rd drink when she brought a platter of cow pot, fried rice, and some meat on sticks for all of them. Brad wasn't sure what kind of meat it was. It could be anything from monkey to dog, common meats in that area. The kids didn't care. They liked the meat sticks a lot. Brad thought the cow pot would be too spicy for them, but they started eating right away. The little girl talked non-stop in Thai during the meal. Brad didn't understand her, but she was laughing, which was better than crying. He laughed along with her. The boy didn't talk as much. He was more focused on eating. Brad tried to ask where their parents were, with help from the restaurant owner, but the kids had no answer. The owner told him to wait. The kids would likely lead him somewhere after eating, so he waited. Once he was sure that neither kid could eat another bite, he paid the bill and took the leftovers with him. There were plenty of leftovers. This time, the kids held his hands and pulled him along to a place that looked like a church. It had a cross in front of it. A Christian church was the last thing Brad expected to see in Korat, Thailand. But then again, maybe not. Thai people were the friendliest and most tolerant Brad had ever met. Well, except when it came to thieves. They weren't fond of thieves. In all other ways, they were the nicest people you could find. The kids led him inside, and it was very dark. Brad had to stop in the doorway for a couple of minutes to let his eyes adjust. The children waited patiently. Once he could see, they led him to a bench and nudged him to sit. The little boy smiled, and the little girl hugged his leg. Then they walked up to a railing at the front of the church. Brad wasn't very religious. His family were lapsed Catholics. He had gone through First Communion and Confirmation, but that was it. He knew what the kids were doing when they kneeled at the railing. They were praying, very quietly. Brad sat there for a good 40 minutes until an older man with a priest's collar joined him on the bench. The priest looked at Brad with curiosity. Brad pointed at himself, then at the kids. "You are their guardian," the priest whispered. "What? No, I don't think so. They brought me here. What are they praying for?" The priest smiled. "They pray for their dead father. He died 1 year ago." Cancer?" "Yes, thank you. Cancer. The boy and girl come every day to pray for their father's soul." "Every day?" The priest nodded. "Every day. Good day, bad day, they come to pray. The children stay here while their mother works. She works long hours, 12, 14 hours a day. The children wait here." "Are the children Christian?" The priest smiled and shook his head. "No, they just ask God to remember their father." "Thank you," said Brad. "I will wait here with the children for their mother. Is that okay?" The priest smiled, nodded, and then left. The kids were still praying and had not moved a muscle. Kids their age usually didn't stay still for this long. It was very unusual. About 10 minutes later, the kids finished praying. They stood up, smiled at Brad, and joined him on the bench. The little girl climbed into his lap and rested her head on his chest. The boy held on to Brad's right arm, rested his head on it, and fell fast asleep right away. Brad raised his eyebrows and looked at the little girl next to him. She smiled, hugged him, and then leaned her head against his chest. She also fell asleep quickly. Brad sat there thinking about his situation. This was very unexpected. He didn't wear a watch anymore, just used his phone, which was in a pocket under the little girl. He didn't know the time or when the mother might come back. Would she come back? The only thing Brad knew was that he needed to use the bathroom. Beer always did that to him. To distract himself, he thought about these two kids who came to this small, dark church every day to pray for their dead father. They weren't even Christian, yet they prayed here daily. Who does that? Brad thought their father must have been a very good man for them to be so devoted a year after his death. He put his left arm around the little girl and gently squeezed. She made a small sound and tried to snuggle closer to him. Brad grinned. She reminded him of his own kids at her age, but then sadness hit him. His kids. Did they miss him? Did they even think of him? They probably wouldn't be praying for him. No. Most likely they were having pizza with Nathan. If Nathan wasn't with Vicky, Mark and Jennifer would probably leave some slices for Nathan. Brad felt a wave of anger. He couldn't help comparing this dead father to himself. The man had it all. His kids, who loved him so much, were still praying for him a year after he died. What did Brad have? Nothing. Everything he worked for, everything he achieved, all gone. His life was a dream that ended in a nightmare, a lonely nightmare. At some point, Brad fell asleep. In his sleep, he felt a gentle touch on his shoulder and smiled, thinking fairies were visiting him. Then he felt another touch, and this one was a bit heavier. Brad woke up. The place was still dark, but he could see a woman standing in front of him. She was young and pretty, with an odd look on her face. "Children me," she said. Her voice was nice. Is that your name? Brad asked, still not fully awake. Her eyebrows came together and she looked a bit angry. Children! Me! Children! Oh, I'm sorry. Are these your children? Yes, children me! Brad tried to smile. He really needed to go to the bathroom. It's okay, he said. They kept me company and fell asleep. He gestured to the leftover food from the restaurant. Are you hungry? Cowpot. Children, me, eat cowpot. Then come here. Hungry? Please. You eat? She gave him a confused look. Then the priest joined them. After speaking in Thai, the woman's look softened. She still seemed confused and tired, but not suspicious anymore. She glanced at the cowpot a couple of times. After more talking with the priest, they decided Brad would carry the sleeping children home, and she would carry the cowpot. Her name was Tam Thong. Brad found it strange that she trusted him so much, but she seemed very tired. Maybe she just needed help. Her home was not far from the church. Brad was upset to see the poor condition of her place. The woman and her kids shared a pile of blankets on the floor as their bed. No pillows. Even so, the blankets were clean and the place was tidy. He was amazed. Once the kids were settled, he asked if he could use her bathroom. He had to act it out, which was awkward. She took him to a small room with a hole in the floor instead of a toilet. That was their bathroom. She left him alone, so he used the hole. When he came out, she was eating the cold cow pot. Very hungry. She didn't seem to want him to leave, so he stayed. He had nothing else to do, and she seemed lonely. Her English was not great, but he understood enough. She told him about her life. Her husband had been a day laborer. He got sick with cancer and died. There was no money left. She wasn't well educated, so she worked as a dishwasher at a small, dirty restaurant. She hated it because the owner was a bad man, but she had no other options. She had to work for her children. Brad was surprised he felt a connection with her. She wasn't complaining, just explaining things as they were. He found her honesty refreshing. He stayed with her until nearly 1 a.m., then she said she needed to sleep. She had to be back at work by 8 a.m. Brad thanked her for her company. She thanked him for the food and for watching her kids, and then he left. Surprisingly, he found his rented house easily even in the dark. The next afternoon, he went back to the market. He saw the kids standing under a shaded tree, looking at different food stands. He laughed and joined them. He took them to the same restaurant as the day before. Then he walked with the kids to the church and waited with them until Tam Thong arrived. He had some leftover food for her. This soon became a daily routine. He would find the kids, feed them, then wait while they prayed, and finally share a meal and chat with Tam Thong until she needed to go to sleep. During the second week, he discovered where she worked. The place was a dump, and it made him very angry. He wasn't sure why, but it really bothered him. By the fourth week, he made a decision that he hadn't realized he was considering. Brad chose to stay in Korat for as long as needed. He wanted to help Tam Thong and the kids who had grown very dear to him. The house he was renting was affordable, just over $500 a month. It was a big house for Thai standards, with 3 bedrooms and a bathroom with a tub and shower. There were beds and bedding in each room. The smallest bedroom even had twin beds. The house had a fenced backyard with a small pool and a large open space in the front. It was in a nice neighborhood and would be a good home for them. All he had to do was convince Tam Thong to quit her job and become his live-in housekeeper. He thought it would be easy. It was not. Brad hadn't realized she might think his offer meant she would be living there as his girlfriend. She was very upset when he first made the offer. Her response was entirely in Thai, and she was very angry. So he asked the priest for help. Brad brought the priest to his house, showed him around, and asked him to talk to Tam Thong. The priest agreed, and they planned to invite Tam Thong and the kids for an early breakfast at Brad's house. It still took another 3 weeks for Tam Thong to believe that Brad was sincere and that he wasn't seeking a relationship. He just wanted to help and needed someone to keep the house clean. She must have been especially frustrated with her restaurant job because she finally agreed. Brad let Tam Thong and the priest discuss her pay and the rules of her and the kids living with him. She had been making $1.84 a day at the restaurant. Brad offered her $10 a day, but she angrily rejected it. It was too much for what he asked her to do. So, the priest and Tam Thong worked out a deal. In the end, Brad would pay her $3 a day and could buy clothes for the kids. He also required that they learn English and agreed to hire a tutor since the kids hadn't been going to school. It took a few more days, but they finally reached an agreement. Moving them all to his house only took one trip. The kids were very excited, not just because of the nice big house, but because they liked Brad very much. Tamthong was nervous, but after a couple of weeks, she felt more at ease as Brad made no inappropriate moves. Also, seeing her kids happy and laughing with Brad brought joy to her heart. She did the grocery shopping, often with Brad. He was learning enough Thai to follow along when she bargained at the market. Tamthong was a tough negotiator and a great cook. She would quickly remind him that he was paying her to clean if he tried to help with cleanup. Her kids would help if needed. The children stopped going to the little church but continued praying for their father at home by their beds. Tamthong thought they should stop because they were not Christian, but Brad insisted they continue. It wasn't until she heard Brad's story about his loss of family that she understood why it helped him. Her children's prayers helped Brad deal with his own grief. She would not allow a cross or shrine in the house for the children to pray at. They were Buddhist. Brad understood and suggested they pray by their beds instead. He told her that's what he did as a child. She thought about it and agreed. It gave her children something shared with Brad, and she was happy with that. 4 months into living with Brad, 4 wonderful, safe, and happy months, Tamthong brought up the idea of becoming his partner. He gently turned her down. "Forget Bert." Nathan raised his glass in a toast and drank. "Ah, that's good. What's going on, Nate?" Dwayne asked. "Forget Bert." "The old man's been a huge jerk since I took Vicky to Aruba. Keeps making mean comments. I'm sick of his nonsense." "He's still not over it?" "Yeah, still giving me a hard time about it. It's not my fault Vicky wants something better. If only Vicky's husband had been taking care of things, Vicky would never have looked my way. Why am I getting blamed for their bad marriage?" Nathan took a big gulp, finishing his beer. He caught the bartender's eye and waved his mug. The bartender filled it up again with beer from the tap. "Want another shot?" asked the bartender. "Sure. I don't have any meetings until 9 tomorrow. Fill it up." "Man, are you going to be okay tomorrow? My liver hurts just watching you drink all that." Dwayne shook his head. "This is nothing. You should have seen me in Aruba. Vicky was so scared we were going to get in trouble that we had to drink just to calm down. These drinks, they were just warming up." Nathan shook his head. "Forget that guy's family. I'm going to hang out with Vicky all weekend. Bert's daughter won't be able to show up for work on Monday." Dwayne laughed. "Sure. Here's 20 that says she'll be at work on Monday. You're on. Easy money." "Nate, why does Vicky matter? You have a few others, don't you? Why risk making Bert mad over her? She was the prize. Happily married boss's daughter, the others, they were easy. A smile, a wink, a little flirting, and they were interested. But Vicky, she was the big challenge. And you've seen her. Those other girls don't even compare. I don't know if I'll ever get tired of her. Just thinking about her. I might need to see her tonight." "You live for the thrill, Nate. It worked out pretty well for Maverick, didn't it?" "Nate, this could come back to bite you someday." Pete had been so quiet that Nathan forgot he was there. "What does that mean? Some bad luck thing?" Pete sighed. "No, not bad luck. You know why criminals get caught? There's always a chance of getting caught. Every time is a gamble. Gamble enough times and you eventually lose." "So now I'm a criminal?" Nathan shot back. "No. Yes. I don't know. Look, I know if you did that to my daughter, I'd want to beat you up. You're not a criminal, but you're definitely making people mad." "I'm the bad guy here?" Pete turned to face Nathan fully and looked him in the eye. "To some, yeah. It doesn't matter if you don't think you're doing anything wrong. To those dealing with unfaithfulness, you're probably on their bad side." He sighed. "Nate, you're not a bad guy. We know that. We wouldn't hang out with you if we thought you were mean. But I'm not warning you about Dwayne and me. It's all those other people who see you as the reason their marriage is falling apart. Telling Dwayne and me whose fault it is won't change their mind. They're not here, hearing your side. They're fighting with their wife for their marriage, and they see you as the bad guy." "Okay, I've lost where I was going with this. Oh yeah, just be careful. This can't go on forever. It's going to catch up with you one day." Pete nodded, finishing his drunken wisdom. "And with that, I'm out. I'll see you in the office tomorrow." Pete finished his mug, said goodbye, and left. Dwayne finished his beer soon after, too, and said goodbye. Nathan sat at the bar, sipping his last beer and thinking. Dwayne was a fool. His wife was probably out with someone else. Nathan had been with her a few times months ago, but she was too easy. He let her go after that. He didn't want to catch something from her. Pete had a point, though. Maybe it was time for something steady, not marriage? No way. Nathan had no desire to put a ring on anyone's finger. Vicky was great, and he wasn't planning to leave her anytime soon, but he didn't see a long-term future with her. Not yet, anyway. But Dwayne and Pete were good friends, at least. Nathan had been stressed since Vicky's kids texted that Brad might be out to get him. Of course, Vicky's husband had to go crazy. The best person he has found yet, and she's married to a madman. Nathan remembered a guy from years ago who nearly broke his jaw. Wendy Lawson was wild, and they both thought her young husband was weak. But when the husband found out Nathan and Wendy were together, he hit Nathan so hard that Nathan could barely chew for a week. Thankfully, he didn't lose any teeth. Wendy pulled her husband off Nathan before more damage could be done. That was a painful lesson, literally. Nowadays, Nathan did his homework. He checked out the husbands before going after the wives. Brad seemed safe. Vicky had him under control. He was quiet and kept to himself every time. Nothing about Brad worried Nathan. Now Nathan was looking over his shoulder, peering into every shadow, wondering if the next person walking in was there to beat him up. Nathan finished the last shot. That should calm him down, at least until he gets home, which sounded like a better idea the longer he sat there. Dwayne and Pete might not be tough, but they were something. Sitting there alone, Nathan felt too exposed and isolated. Nathan quickly finished his beer, left a tip on the bar, and headed home. "Mark, can you get that?" Vicky called from the kitchen. "Yep," Mark called back and answered the door. "Hey, bud, looking good," Nathan said, shaking Mark's hand. "Nathan, we weren't expecting you so early. Come in." Mark waved Nathan in. "What do you have there?" "Oh, this? Just some barbecue sauces and chips. I wasn't sure what to bring." "Great. Let me put this away in the kitchen." Mark grabbed the bag and took it to the kitchen. Barbecue sauce? Mark suddenly remembered they used a rub and added Dad's barbecue sauce. Then it hit him. Who was going to make the sauce now? Did his mom know how? Maybe they would need Nathan's sauce after all. "Nathan!" Jen shouted and gave Nathan a huge hug. "Jen, how's school?" Nathan asked. Jen got quiet. "Oh, we're figuring it out." "What's there to figure out?" "You pick classes, go to them, do the work, and you're done. Has it gotten harder since I left?" Jen laughed. "No, school's easy, but Dad stopped paying, and Mark and I are trying to figure out how to cover next semester." "Oh, well, something will come up," Nathan said, not taking it seriously. Then he thought, what if the Duncans thought he was in it for the long haul? Vicky was fun, but he didn't plan on marrying her. He hoped whatever gods out there kept this fun and simple. "I'm sure something will work out. Mom thinks Grandma Irene might help. But enough about that. How are you?" "Good. Aruba was great. I think your mom came back glowing too." Nathan winked at Jen, making her giggle. "Yeah, she looks good. Too bad you didn't get out more." "Yeah, too bad." "What are you doing this weekend?" "I thought I'd hang out with Vicky, you, and Mark. Sound good?" Please have plans so Vicky and I can be alone, Nathan thought. "Mostly you and Mom, then. Mark and I have to get back to school." "That's too bad. We'll catch up another time." "Yes, there is a God out there," Nathan thought with a chuckle. Nathan and Jen walked into the kitchen. Mark was helping Vicky with dinner. Nathan slid in behind Vicky, wrapped his arms around her waist, and gave her a big kiss, then kissed her neck. "Stop, Nathan! You know I have a knife, right?" Vicky giggled, trying to nudge him away. She half-heartedly did, making Nathan laugh. She had to push him away when his hands started wandering. "Nathan, the kids are right here," Jen was giggling. "We can leave if you want, Mom." "No, stay. Dinner will never—" "Stop, Nathan. Dinner will never get done if you—" "Nathan!" Vicky's tone changed to serious, and Nathan backed off but stole one last kiss, making Vicky laugh. "Enough. Sit down and let me finish this. Jen, get our guest a beer." Vicky winked at Nathan. She had ordered his favorite beer from their Aruba trip. Wow, really? Nathan was surprised when Jen handed him the beer. "Where did you—" "I ordered it. Thought you might like it," Vicky said. "You thought right. Thanks. Mark, you have to try one." "Sure," Mark said, looking at Vicky. She nodded, so he took one. Yeah, sure, he said again. Mark tried his beer, but he didn't really like it yet. Nathan laughed at his reaction. You'll get used to it. College is about drinking a lot. Later, you'll enjoy the taste more. He better not be drinking too much, Vicky said, eyeing Mark. I'm not, Mom, Mark assured her, winking at Nathan. When Vicky turned back to cooking, Mark and Nathan shared a smile. Dinner went on without any problems. The meal was good, but Mark and Jen missed their dad's barbecue sauce. It just wasn't the same without it, so they used Nathan's sauce instead. Jen felt a tear slide down her face, worrying she might never taste her dad's sauce again. Mark and Jen left soon after dinner. Nathan didn't wait for the door to close before he was kissing Vicky again. They laughed and enjoyed their evening. The next morning, Vicky sipped her coffee. Last weekend with Nathan had been wonderful. She missed Brad, but having Nathan was a nice distraction. Nathan had been fun and comforting for the past few months. Vicky needed her family around, even though her parents didn't speak to her much. She missed her kids and was excited for their visit again this weekend. As Vicky got up for another coffee, her phone rang. She didn't check who it was before answering. Hello? Mom? Everything okay? Jen asked. Oh, yes, dear, Vicky said, adding cream and sugar to her cup. Just getting my coffee. How are you? Are you on the road? That's why I'm calling, Mom. I won't make it this weekend. That's okay, Vicky said to comfort her. She knew Jen had her own life. Summer break is soon. We'll have plenty of time to catch up. Ugh, Jen groaned. Mom, I don't know how much time I'll be spending at home. What? Why not? Because of Nathan, Mom. I can't be there when he's around. Seriously? You had no problem with him last weekend. You both talked the whole time. You even hugged him when he arrived. I know. But then I felt awful. All week I kept thinking about what Nathan is doing to our family. Doing to our family? He hasn't done anything. Nathan has been great for us. That's not true, Mom. Everything has a cost. School costs time and money. Kids cost time and money. A marriage takes effort. Your affair cost us Dad. Wow, that's intense and dramatic, Vicky replied sarcastically. Cut it out, Mom. During the barbecue, I kept thinking, where's Dad? He used to smoke the ribs. He made the barbecue sauce. He listened to Mark and me talk about our problems and would find a way to help. He would make us laugh and feel better. And Nathan doesn't do that? That's a lie. You had a great time with him. Mom! This isn't about Nathan. Yeah, I like Nathan. He's a good guy. But he's not Dad. If I have to choose, I choose Dad every time. And that's what this is about. If Nathan stays around, Dad will never come back. Ugh, the drama never ends. So are you never coming home again? Vicky heard a long sigh over the phone. No, Mom, I'll come home. It just won't be as often. I'm going to get a job to pay for my car and school. I'll keep my distance from Nathan, and maybe I'll get lucky and find Dad. Jen, sweetie, that's fine. But can you maybe put that off for a bit? It's so lonely here, and I'd love to have you and Mark around. I promise not to have Nathan over for any more barbecues for a month or two. How's that? Jen groaned. She loved her mother, and knowing she was lonely made her sad. Fine, Mom. I'll visit next weekend. I have a few things I need to do this weekend, but I should be free after that. Vicky and Jen spoke a little more. Jen found a few entry-level jobs that were decent paying. One even had tuition help. Jen would have to switch schools and retake classes that did not transfer, but it was a good option. Nathan sat up. Both of them were sweaty and breathing hard. Vicky had a big grin on her face. Nathan smiled, knowing she had enjoyed their time together. Wow, Vicky muttered, staring at the ceiling. She had stayed away from Nathan for over a week. Jen's talk about choosing had made her doubt her need for Nathan. When he showed up tonight, though, Vicky's loneliness had weakened her will to stay away, and they soon found themselves in the bedroom. Just wow? Nathan asked with a raised eyebrow. You're right, that was great. Better than that other guy, right? Nathan smirked. What? Vicky hissed. She sat up, angry. Nathan, confused, looked at Vicky. What did I say? Come on! That guy left you because he knew he could never make you feel this way. Get out! Get out! What the heck? Get out! Go! Vicky pushed Nathan, trying to get him out of the bed. What's wrong with you? You're not half the man Brad is. Get your stuff and get out! Nathan got out of bed and started dressing. Are you serious? He left you, didn't even fight for you, and you're kicking me out? Forget it. You're not worth this trouble. Nathan had his pants on, grabbed the rest of his clothes, and left. The bedroom door slamming behind him felt like a closing chapter in Vicky's life. How dare Nathan talk about Brad that way? Nathan was just an extra, not important like Brad. Brad was all the man she ever needed. Vicky felt her anger melting away. Brad was all the man she ever needed. She looked around the empty bedroom. She had put away pictures of Brad and herself. It felt wrong to have them there with Nathan coming over. But now, looking around, the bedroom felt more like a hotel room than the place where she had spent decades with Brad. It could be anybody's room. Vicky heard the front door slam and knew Nathan was gone. It hit her then just how alone she was. Her own parents were more and more distant. They did not call her anymore. She heard more about her father through Nathan than from her own mother. Jen did not visit much either. Her job took a lot of her free time. Even when she did visit, she was not the same. The daughter that had supported Vicky through her time with Nathan was no more. She was pleasant, but at best, indifferent to Vicky and Nathan's relationship. Jen no longer held hope that Vicky would get back together with Brad and made that clear. It caused problems between Vicky and Jen. Arguments, periods of angry silence. Jen was very upset and blamed Vicky. Vicky thought that was silly and lashed back at Jen. There was a gap forming between them. Vicky didn't want it, but Jen was being stubborn. Mark still visited sometimes. He was very devoted to her and the last of her family support. But he also cared a lot about himself. Vicky knew that a big part of why Mark was around now was because he needed her. If Brad was still around, taking care of things, Mark might spend more time at school and with his friends, unlike Jen, who put family first. Nathan here. Mr. Schaefer needs to see you. Nathan recognized Maureen's voice. Yes, I'll be right up. Nathan closed a folder, cleaned up his desk, and checked if there was anything that could delay the upcoming conversation with Bert. He knew it would likely be about Vicky again, and Bert not so subtly calling Nathan a jerk. Seeing his desk tidy, Nathan sighed and accepted the unavoidable talk. He headed to the elevators and saw an angry Dwayne. Did Dwayne have a bad day? Was Bert in a bad mood? What was happening? You lousy piece of trash, Dwayne yelled. Dwayne, what's going on? What's going on? You cheated with her. You cheated with Nancy. Dwayne clenched his fists, holding himself back from hitting Nathan. Oh no, Nathan thought. He didn't know. Whoa, Dwayne, calm down. Don't you bud me, you backstabbing jerk. Dwayne got really close to Nathan's face. You're lucky we're at work. Stay away from me. Dwayne stormed off, face bright red. Nathan's heart raced. How did Dwayne find out? What else could go wrong this week? He hadn't realized he was shaking and sweating. He used to think Dwayne was a weakling. Now, Nathan wasn't so sure. Dwayne might be tougher than Brad. At least Brad moved away. Nathan still had to work with Dwayne, and many people liked Dwayne. What a mess. The elevator was on the first floor, giving Nathan a few minutes to calm down. He needed more time, though. If it wasn't for the money Bert paid him, Nathan would have found another job by now. Well, that and the attractive women he had yet to meet. After them, he would move on. He could avoid Dwayne. And would Dwayne's friends do anything? They might act tough, but Nathan doubted they'd do much. The elevator dinged, and Nathan arrived at Bert's floor. Nathan headed to Bert's secretary. Get lost? Maureen asked when Nathan entered. Nathan wanted to say something clever, but Maureen never seemed interested in him. She was a beautiful woman in her late 20s, with dark hair and light skin, always wearing bright red lipstick. She seemed cold to everyone but Bert, with whom she always laughed and smiled. Nathan noticed Maureen now wore both an engagement ring and wedding ring. Adding Maureen to his list of conquests became more intriguing. She had only been attractive before, but now, as Vicky's replacement, she was a challenge. Vicky. Nathan still couldn't get over that night. She had kicked him out? That had never happened before. And for what? Her husband who wasn't around? Vicky had chosen Nathan over her husband, and suddenly she changed her mind? Forget her. She could come back if she wanted. There were always others, like Maureen. Maybe next time you can guide me so I don't get lost? Nathan asked with a grin. Maureen shook her head without smiling. Nathan thought it might at least make her smirk. She picked up the phone. Mr. Schaefer? Yes, he's here. Should I send him in? Okay? Maureen put the phone down. Follow me. Gladly, Nathan said quietly. He knew the right volume was important. Too quiet and it seemed awkward, too loud and it sounded obnoxious. But Maureen didn't respond at all. She turned and Nathan followed, watching her walk. Anything else, Mr. Schaefer? Maureen asked Bert. No, thank you, Maureen. She smiled at Bert and left, closing the door behind her. Nathan, please sit, Bert said, signaling to a couch. In Bert's office, 2 couches faced each other with a coffee table in between. There were also 2 comfortable chairs facing his desk. The setting told Nathan what kind of meeting it was. At the desk, it was all business. Numbers, deals, problems. On the couch, it was personal, relationships, celebrations, and conflicts. Nathan knew he was about to get more bad news. Nathan, thank you for coming. You're welcome, though I don't think I had much of a choice. No, probably not. Drink? Sure. Bert poured some Glenlivet for both of them. At least it's the good stuff, Nathan thought, and took his glass. Thank you. Nathan, you know I value the business you bring in, right? Of course. Like the golden goose and all that. Exactly. So have you thought about working somewhere else? Have you looked for other jobs? Why would I do that, Bert? Nathan sighed. Even after Vicky kicked him out, he still had to deal with this? Why was Vicky's choice Nathan's problem? Nathan, because this place is about to get a lot harder for you. Bert said it plainly, without anger. Just a simple fact. What do you mean? Just that. Men don't like it when someone sleeps with their wives. From what I've heard, you've done that with several people here besides my daughter. Someone already found out. It's just a matter of time until others do, too. Why should I care? If their wives cheat, that's their wives' problem. Oh, I'm sure. Bert took a deep breath, drank the last of his whiskey, and put the glass down. He leaned forward and pressed his hands together. Nathan, let me be as clear as possible. Those wives didn't cheat alone. You played a part in it. I'm sure the women will talk about how you charmed and convinced them, how you made them cheat. I doubt their husbands will see you as innocent. They'll blame you for what happened. It doesn't matter if you think you did nothing wrong. Do you understand? Nathan nodded, but he was only half paying attention. He knew some of the husbands worked at the same company and could make his life difficult. They wouldn't confront him physically, but could mess with his finances or computer. But would they? They were too weak to satisfy their wives, which is why the women had been with him. Did he really need to worry about them? I made some calls for you. There are some places waiting for you to call if you want to move on. Are you firing me, Bert? Nathan's defenses went up immediately when Bert slid a piece of paper toward him. This was ridiculous. He was the best employee they had. If Bert wanted him gone, Nathan would make sure it was on his terms, not by forcing him out. You know I'm not firing you. I'm just giving you some options. You're damn right you're not firing me. Bert sighed. Nathan, I'm offering you an easy way out. Leave. These are good jobs. Bert knew that wasn't entirely true. These jobs were a step down, and those places would probably be watching Nathan closely. But Nathan was a cockroach. Bert hated him. He wished Nathan had made a pass at his wife, Irene. She would have dealt with him herself. Bert wouldn't even care if she wasted a good bottle of scotch on him. Leave, start fresh, and all these problems go away. Problems? What problems, Bert? Dwayne realizing he's a coward? He can go to hell. So can those other whiners. I'll leave when I'm ready. Got it? Nathan stood up. Thanks for the scotch. Nathan slammed the door behind him. Bert took a deep breath. He had given Nathan many chances. This was the last one. And to top it off, he lost another bet to Irene. Bert picked up the phone and dialed. Irene? Hey, dear, did you talk to him? Bert sighed. Yes. Irene chuckled. I won again. Yes, you won again. The idiot didn't listen. I even made some calls for him. Wait, you made it easier for him, and he still didn't take it? Bert, that's almost cheating. I'm going to go broke on these bets. Can we just go out to dinner instead? I'd love that, Bert. Bert heard Irene take a deep breath. Bert, I don't care about the bets. I wish you had been right. I guess it's out of our hands now. Did you already? I thought we were waiting until the meeting. We are. I just mean this was the last chance. Bert, are we doing the right thing? Yeah, yes we are. No more doubts. It was his choice after all. Nathan was driving when the car engine light came on, and he saw the temperature was too high. Damn, he was in a part of town where you don't stop, especially not in an $80,000 car. It would be on blocks in no time. He found a well-lit parking lot and pulled over. If he didn't stop, the engine would seize up. At least insurance would cover a stolen car. Nathan looked up the roadside service number and called. A friendly woman told him a tow truck would be there in an hour. Nathan waited for 20 minutes, watching people walk by who he usually despised. He finally decided the bar across the street felt safer. The car seemed like a big target. "Hey, buddy, got a light?" Nathan had just closed the car door when a large man approached him quickly. "No, I don't have a light." Nathan cut off when the man's fist hit his stomach. The air rushed out of his lungs. He wanted to call for help, to scream, but he couldn't breathe. "A jerk like you? You've had this coming for a long time." Another punch hit Nathan's kidney. His legs gave out, but the man held him up, half dragging, half carrying him away from the car. "Why?" Nathan managed to wheeze. He regretted not yelling for help when the man hit him just below the ribs. He was dropped onto the ground in a dark alley. "Oh no," was his last thought before pain overtook him. A boot smashed into his groin. If Nathan didn't know what steel-toe boots were, he did now. No, you don't get to pass out yet," the man said. Nathan gasped for air. His guts screamed in pain. He was now almost blind from the pain and barely felt a hand hit his face a few times. "Hey, you still there?" Nathan groaned. He wanted to scream for help, but the pain killed his voice, and all that came out was a faint groan. "Good. Jerks like you don't get to pass out." The man hit Nathan's mouth, and he felt teeth break. He exhaled blood and teeth. Nathan felt himself losing consciousness and welcomed the darkness. Before passing out, another kick to his groin and a punch to his ear sent him sprawling. Part 1. Beep, beep, beep. Nathan woke up in a dimly lit room. He could blearily make out a machine beside him, beeping steadily. The sound was strange. The machine was on his left, but it felt like the beeping was coming from his right. He turned his head to the right, trying to solve the mystery. He expected to see another machine, but there was nothing there. As he turned his head back to the left, a bandage pressed against his ear, causing intense pain. Nathan screamed, and a nurse rushed in. She said something, put something in his IV, and Nathan drifted off to sleep again. "Nathan?" a soft female voice called. Nathan didn't recognize it. "Doctor, he's waking up. Give him a moment." Nathan slowly opened his eyes. The pain was gone, and he felt better. He didn't move. He didn't want to feel that pain again. He focused on the woman, probably a nurse, and a man he guessed was a doctor. "Nathan? I'm Dr. Wells. Can you hear me?" Nathan nodded. "Good. Follow my pen with your eyes." Nathan did as he was told. The doctor ran a series of tests. "Very good, Nathan. Now we need to talk about a few things. Do you remember how you got here?" Nathan shook his head. Maybe. He wasn't sure if he even moved his head. "The police are waiting. They need details of what happened. Do you remember anything?" Nathan had a vague memory of pulling his car over and getting out, but he couldn't remember what happened next. He shook his head again, this time more sure that he did. "Okay, I'll let them know. They may come in to talk to you soon. In the meantime, there are a few things we need to discuss. First, you took a severe beating. You nearly died on the operating table twice. There was a lot of internal bleeding, but we got through the surgeries and you should be on the mend now, okay? You had a severe concussion. Let us know if you feel confused or sick." The doctor paused for a moment. "We also had to remove a kidney. This is not life-threatening. You'll be fine with one. We have some information for you to read to protect your remaining kidney. There is no easy way to say this. You also lost both testicles, and the damage to your thing will likely cause permanent problems. That's the bad news. There is a surgery we can try to restore some function if you want. I'd need to call a specialist. Do you want more information?" "What?" Nathan couldn't believe it. Tears slid down his cheek. "Yes." "Good. I'll call the specialist. The sooner he can do the surgery, the better." "Okay, about your testicles. We can't restore function, but we can put in implants to make it look and feel more natural. It's a simple procedure if you're interested." Nathan simply nodded. "Nurse, call Dr. Swanson to come in 3 days. That should give us enough time after the first surgery. Nathan, The swelling on your face has not gone down yet, and you'll have scars. Dr. Swanson can help with that if you want. Is that something else you'd like? Nathan wondered. Is anything still working? How bad am I? Yes, doctor, he mumbled. Great. We may need more follow-up discussions. For now, we'll watch over you. Use the call button if you're in pain or need help. The doctor turned to leave, then turned back around. Is there someone we can call for you? No, there's nobody, Nathan whispered. Part 2. Brad stood on the back veranda of his house. It was a very hot day, a real scorcher. He watched Tamthong enjoying the small pool in their backyard under the mini waterfall he had built. Her back was to him, and she was wringing the water out of her long hair. She was topless, which was normal in Thailand around water. Her skin had darkened to an almost caramel color under the sun. Brad thought she was incredibly beautiful. Despite having 2 kids, her waist was still slim. The thong bottom she wore in the water looked daring, but it was fine. Today was the day. It was time to set things right. After their visit to his folks in Fiji a few weeks back, he decided it was time. He had set everything up. They wanted a video call, so it would be on his terms. He'd make the call in the early afternoon, which would be 2 a.m. their time. Brad hoped this would keep the call short. It was time to end this once and for all. Brad looked like he might vomit. His voice was cold and flat when he spoke. I'm only making this video call because my lawyer said it's in my best interest. I have no desire to talk to you, Vicky. Seeing you or hearing your voice makes me sick. I also don't want to talk to you, too. Jen's face went pale, tears rolling down her cheeks. Mark looked devastated, too. Vicky didn't show much emotion, but her body was shaking a little. She looked thinner than Brad remembered, and so did the kids. Brad looked at their faces and then frowned. All right, Brad said. Listen up. We're on this call for a reason. Maybe it'll teach you something. Do you see the 3 people behind me? The woman and 2 kids? They're a family. She's in her late 20s. The boy is 12 now and the girl is 10. Her husband died 3 years ago from cancer. He was a day laborer without any insurance. Their small savings were used up by medical bills and the funeral. The mother worked in a small diner, a terrible place full of roaches. Trust me, you wouldn't want to eat anything from there. She worked as a dishwasher for 12 hours a day, every day, earning almost nothing. After paying rent, she had very little left. Sometimes she brought home leftover food from the diner for her kids. Are you following me so far? Vicky sighed, not really understanding what Brad was getting at, but she kept quiet. At least he was finally talking to them. Mark and Jen were looking at the woman and her children as their dad described their situation. She couldn't bring food home every day. Most days she came home empty-handed because the owner of the diner wanted her to pay for the food, not with money, but by doing something she didn't want to do. So, most days she came home with nothing. Only when the owner wasn't there could she bring some food home. Think about that. She needed food for her kids but refused to give in. She is a symbol of strong moral character, self-respect, and honor. She'd rather die than have her kids grow up knowing she had stooped so low. The kids tried to get food for themselves. They tried stealing, but weren't very good at it. The boy got caught and was going to be sent to jail. Not juvenile hall, but actual jail. Understand? That's how I met them a year and a half ago. I was there when the boy was caught stealing a piece of fruit. Just a piece of fruit. His sister stayed with him, so she got caught too. A lesson in loyalty in case you 3 aren't paying attention. The police were going to take both kids away, but I stepped in and paid for them. I paid the shop owner 3 times the value of what was stolen, and paid the police too. It cost me $18.13 in total. Then I bought the kids a real meal. I didn't know if they had ever had a real meal before. After that, the kids didn't want to tell me where they lived, but they did something surprising. They took me to an old church to pray. Strange, huh? Brad watched his ex-family's faces as he talked. I went with them, thinking they might run away, but they held my hands all the way to the church. Inside, they prayed. I didn't speak their language, so I didn't know what they were praying for. But the priest there spoke some English. He told me the kids came to the church every day to pray for their dad's soul. They weren't even Christian, but they thought it might help their dad. They went there every day while their mother worked, praying for their dad. A 10-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl did that on their own every day. Who does something like that? Someone who loves and respects a parent even after they're gone. I stayed with the kids at the church until their mother came to get them. That's where she found them every night. While I waited with the kids, I couldn't help but compare their father's situation to mine. I thought I had moved on from the heartache and anger after I left the U.S., but clearly I hadn't. Those kids' father didn't have much when he was alive, yet his kids prayed for him every day. I, on the other hand, was a millionaire many times over. I had been a loyal husband and father. I loved my family more than anything. My family never lacked anything my money, time, love, and effort could provide. But at the end of the day, I have nothing to show for all I gave. Nothing but a selfish ex-wife and 2 ungrateful children who wouldn't care about me even if it meant life or death. So, in short, I hired the mother from that awful diner and brought them all to live with me. No, not for any cheap reason, Vicky. Cheap stuff is your thing, not mine. That woman is like family to me. She takes care of my house and kids in a safe and loving way. I wanted to give them a good life. I have the money to do that, so why not? They've earned it in my eyes. I didn't plan to stay here this long. I came here to get away from my messed-up life for a bit. This was just one more place on my travel list, a place to find some peace or a new way of seeing things. Maybe give my wasted life some meaning. Then I met those kids. I found what I needed, a purpose. Maybe I can help raise them right this time. I don't know where I went wrong before, but I'll do it right now. I'm staying with them. Life is simpler and less hurtful with them. I can smile and laugh again. You have no idea how good it feels to smile and laugh after it's been taken away by people you loved and trusted. That's all I've got to say. Maybe you learned something. Maybe you didn't. I bet you didn't. Anyway, I'm happy again, and I plan to stay that way. You wanted this call, so say what you need to say and let's be done with it. Jen was crying, and even Vicky had tears streaming down her face. Dad? Stop. You lost the right to call me that, Mark. I'm not your father anymore by your choice. You threw that away when you betrayed me. Mark slumped back into his chair. Brad, say what you need to say, Vicky. Let's get this over with. Brad, please listen. Stop this, please. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. Please end this and come home. I don't want a divorce. I can't stand the idea of being without you. Give us a chance to make up for what I did. If you need to be mad at me. Blame me. But I'm begging you, give your children another chance, and maybe even forgive me. Come home. Brad was clearly angry, and it was scary to see. Are you still seeing that guy you went to Aruba with? He asked. No, that was a mistake, Brad. I messed up big time. I love you more than words can say. Please, forgive us. Brad glared at his wife, his face full of rage. But before he could respond, a young girl ran over to him, climbing onto his lap. She gave him a quick hug and then noticed the people on the computer screen. Her eyes widened and she smiled, showing a few missing teeth. She waved at the 3 people staring at her and giggled. Jen also giggled, though it was a bit strained. She reached out, touching the screen. Mark just sat there shocked. Vicky put her hand over her mouth. Brad's expression softened with the little girl on his lap. He smiled. Brad looked up at his old family. I'm not telling you her name or the boy's name. You don't deserve to know them. You only need to know they are good people. A woman and a boy joined Brad. They spoke a language none of Brad's old family knew. The woman touched Brad's shoulder and squeezed it, making Vicky jealous. The boy spoke to the screen in broken English. We happy, thank for Brad, love him so much, so happy, good man, thank. At first, Vicky, Mark, and Jen were confused, but they quickly understood. Vicky turned pale as she realized Brad had replaced his family. The woman watched Brad's old family closely. She spoke softly to her children, and they left to play behind Brad. The woman then spoke to Brad in her language. Brad nodded, understanding what she wanted. The woman turned to Vicky, Mark, and Jen and spoke in broken English. Me name Tamthong Presert. Me English not good. Me learn. Him make me study. Is hard. Very hard. Bless him in me life. Bless. Him save me. Him save me baby to life. Him treat us family. Him much kind. Him much love. We bless. Me know what you him do. All you. Shame you. All you no good him. Cheat. Lie. Know him want. Shame, shame, shame. Me know him mad you. All time. Him pain you. All time. Him pain hurt me heart. Me want him pain stop. Me want him mad stop. Me want him happy all time. Me want him love. Bless. Happy. All time. Many times me say him, me be him woman. Him true woman. Me want him all life. Me life. Love me baby too here always. Me be true woman him. Me give him much love. All love me give. Me want him baby me give. Many baby. Him say no, him marry, him no bad man, him no liar, him no cheat man. Long, long time him say this me. More 1 year, soon 2 year, no more wait. You say goodbye, she said, looking directly at Vicky. Me take him me. Me baby loves him a lot. So much love for him. Now they have kids. Him being my baby is very good. I am true to him. Always true. I love him so much. He is the best man ever. You cheated on your wife, cheated on baby with him. Now he's mine. All my life I'll love him. Never cheat, always be good. I mean it. Brad shook his head as Tamthong walked away from him. Jen started crying openly. Dad? What did I say about that, Jennifer? I love you, Dad. Not enough, Jennifer. Not nearly enough to fight for me. Not even enough to think about fighting for me. Jen wouldn't back off, though. That's not true, Dad. Do you still have any love left for us? Any at all? Brad frowned. Love is a funny thing, Jennifer. Real love, at least. You can't just turn it off, but it can change. Its color can change. Its scent, its feel, its meaning. Your mother should be able to explain the meaning part if she hasn't already. She changes the meaning of love to suit her mood. Vicky winced at the insult. Brad. Stop, Vicky. Your claim of loving me lost its meaning long ago. It changed 4 months before you told me I no longer mattered to you. It lost its meaning the last day we spent together when you didn't once say you loved me. It lost all meaning when you continued your affair after returning from Aruba. What? You didn't think I would know about that? It changed for you kids, too, once you told me you were on your mother's side. That told me I meant nothing to either of you. It permanently changed for me when you chose to stand by her lover instead of your father. There's no point in going over it again. I wasn't what you three wanted in your lives. I wasn't good enough for any of you. 20 years of my devotion meant nothing to you. Wonderful. I've moved on. Leave it at that. That's not true, Dad, Mark said with some heat in his voice. I'm not having this conversation with you, Mark. Or you, Vicky. Or you, Jennifer. Sometimes all you get is one chance to do the right thing. You three had your chance and you made the wrong choice. Deal with it. Live with it. I have no problem living with the choice I made. I never said you didn't matter, Brad. Never. Yes, you did, Vicky. The thing is, cheaters hear their words the way they want to. You didn't care what I thought your words meant. My view is the only one that matters to me, not yours. Yours was nonsense from the start. It's still nonsense. And Mark, you telling me your mother cheating on me wasn't the end of the world? Still feel that way, kid? Mark shook his head, blushing. No. That was about the stupidest thing I've ever said, and I've said some really stupid things in my life, Dad. Brad ignored Mark calling him Dad again. I'd say your Camelot reference was the dumbest thing you've ever said. But who really cares? Stupid is as stupid does, right? Dad, we messed up. No question about it. I can't even begin to say how sorry I am for what I did, or how ashamed I still feel for what I did. What we all did to you, there was no way you deserved that. Can't you forgive us for our stupidity? Can't you give us a chance to make it up to you? Please, Dad, give us a chance. Jennifer joined in. We love you, Dad. We've always loved you. We still love you, and nothing you say is going to change that. Like Mom and Mark said, we screwed up. We hurt you in terrible, unimaginable ways. I'll never deny the part I played in that, but I am very, very sorry I wasn't smart enough to say no when Mom talked to us about it. I knew it was wrong, but I wasn't smart enough to say no. I just want to be your daughter again, that's all. Nothing else. Just let us be your family again. What we did was bad, but was it lifelong bad? Is there no way you can forgive us? Even a little? No, Jennifer, not happening. Did either of you kids ever tell Nathan to leave my house? No, you did not. You welcomed him. You made his life easy while he was with my wife in my bed. Forget all of you. Brad! Vicky, let's stop the nonsense, okay? I heard about you losing your friend. What? How did you do that to him? Brad laughed. It was a cruel laugh. I heard someone beat Nathan Trumbull up real bad. Actually, I heard he nearly died twice on the operating table. Your folks, my folks, Sarah, I can't say any of them felt sorry for the guy. He is a good man, Brad. He was never a good man, Vicky. Good men don't sleep with married women and break up families. Did you think I wouldn't find out who your lover was? I knew well before you went to Aruba with him. Did you know you weren't the only married woman he was with? Did you know that? You probably didn't. You likely thought you were special. I'm right, aren't I? Well, anyway, I think some husband got mad at Nathan's behavior. His getting beaten up was bound to happen at some point. I understand Nathan has serious scars he'll explain for the rest of his life, not to mention that he can't use his thing anymore. There's some justice in that, don't you think? Brad, how could you... Dad, did you do that to him? Mark asked, shocked. Brad looked at Mark before answering. What's the matter, Mama's boy? You've got a problem with a jealous husband getting back at a guy who messed up his life? Dad, I don't think what Mom did was right, but I've met Nathan many times. He's a nice guy. Brad snorted and asked, You agree with your brother, Jennifer? He is nice, Dad. Uh-huh. Stop calling me Dad. I'm not your father anymore. You accepted that man into the house I paid for, and that shows me everything I need to know. You should all just leave me alone. Go find that broke guy Nathan and stop bothering me. Go hug each other or something. Brad, Vicky cut in, Nathan will have you arrested for what you did to him. First, Vicky, you're assuming I did it. I never said I did anything to him. Your friend thought the same and had the police after me, saying I hurt him. Did you know that? Did he tell you? Did you ever defend me? Any of you? No? That's what I thought. I was visited by a couple of U.S. federal marshals last week. They found me out here. All that happened was they got drunk on local beer, which tastes bad but is very strong. I can prove I wasn't in the States when Nathan got hurt. Me being innocent must have been another blow for him. Or maybe not. I heard they replaced his damaged parts with plastic eggs, the kind kids hunt for at Easter. Yes? No? Maybe I'm wrong. But Nathan saying it was me who attacked him probably didn't look good with the federal government. Someone spent a lot of money tracking me down out here. Uncle Sam will need to raise taxes to cover that cost. Anyway, screw that guy. He got what he deserved, whoever did it. Maybe he's got more coming. Who knows? Now, for the last time, let's get this call over with. I know you've been having money problems. I know Mark and Jennifer dropped out of school when I stopped paying for them, and Vicky, you didn't help them continue. They missed a semester waiting for loans. Too bad for them, and shame on you. You could buy Nathan a new car, but not help your kids. You make over $300,000 a year? Disgraceful. How's the car you gave Nathan? I heard it got wrecked. You could have paid for more classes with that money. What a selfish person you've become. Anyway, I know you three have been trying to find the money I took and trying to sue Mom and Dad for the money from selling the company. That's why my attorney wanted me to talk to you. He's tired of your attorneys bothering him. Brad laughed, this time more nicely. The legal system in America is funny these days. Lawyers complaining about other lawyers. What a joke. Okay, listen carefully. You will never find or get the money I took. Even if I died now, you wouldn't see a penny. It would just disappear. Think of it like this. I die, and every bank account on the planet gets a 2-cent deposit. Every personal and business account. Want to do the math on that? The same is true for the profit Mom and Dad made from selling the company. The sale happened in a country with no treaties with the U.S., and that money is out of reach. It's Mom and Dad's money. It was their company, not mine, and you have no legal right to it. Talk about being greedy. I know you asked Bert and Irene for money, Vicky, and they refused. How do I know? They and Sarah went to Fiji 2 months ago. We, Brad said, waving his arm towards Tamthong and the children, met them there. We had a wonderful time. It was great seeing your family accept Tamthong and the kids so warmly, Vicky. I don't care if Bert or Irene gives you money, but they still seem upset with you all. You shouldn't have moved Nathan into the house I paid for, Vicky. That was very arrogant and foolish. Mark and Jennifer shouldn't have shown their liking for Nathan. None of you should have brought Nathan to family events as if he belonged there. He didn't, doesn't, and never will if I understood Irene and Bert correctly. Your parents hoped I would come back and forgive you three, Vicky. They hoped I would return, fix things, and rebuild our family. They knew it wouldn't happen once Nathan was a permanent part of your lives, though. They told me that in Fiji. So yes, they are pretty upset with all of you, and they have every right to be. Sarah told me, right in front of Irene and Bert, how you pushed her into accepting your plan, Vicky. You wanted her to spend 2 weeks with me to make up for your cheating. You called it balancing the scales or something like that. I thanked her for the thought, but we both knew it wouldn't happen. That's just not who I am, and neither is Sarah. It's sad that you think so little of your sister. If you had half the sense of right and wrong she has, we might still be together. She also told me you two jerks knew about your mother's plan to have Sarah get close to me, and you both agreed. You three make me sick. Trailer trash. That's all you are to me? But that's all in the past. So, all your crying about love and loss has nothing to do with me. You were all happy with Nathan until he got a few injuries, couldn't work, and money got tight. Nathan can't be with you in bed anymore, Vicky. That must ruin your fun at having him in my bed, and you two spoiled brats no longer have an easy life. That's what this call is really about. You don't want me back. You only want my money. That's my money too, Brad, Vicky yelled. No, it isn't. It's all mine, and it will stay mine. You played your game thinking you had it all figured out. I told you that Saturday night you were wrong. You gambled and you lost. I owe you nothing, none of you. You made your choices, so live with them. I have a few last things to say to you three. Ed, my lawyer, will be giving you divorce papers this week. It's just a formality. You get the house from the divorce, but that's all. I would never step foot in that place again anyway. It's ruined for me. Sign the divorce papers and you will get my share of the house once it's final. Stay there. Sell it. I don't care. You should get about $1.5 million if you sell it now. Also, I don't care if you refuse to sign the divorce papers. I don't need to be divorced to have a great life with Tam-Thong and the kids. She's happy with me just the way I am. The divorce will happen whether you sign or not. Your signature isn't needed in our state. I'm not even blaming you for cheating. I'm just telling the court I don't want to be with you anymore, so sign or don't sign. It doesn't matter, it will happen. Oh, before I forget, I am officially adopting the 2 kids playing in the yard behind me. You have no say in that. None of you do. Only Tam-Thong does, and she has already agreed and signed. The adoption will be final in a day or 2. I had to give a few gifts to make it happen, but it didn't cost me more than a meal in a nice American restaurant. Next, Tam-Thong told you I had been keeping her away from me. That changes today. I don't love her like I loved you, Vicky. But we both know the deep love I had for you was wasted. 20 years of waste. I do love Tam-Thong, though, and I respect her and her values. More love will come our way, especially once we start having children together. That will happen within a year, I'd say. I'll let Irene, Bert, and Sarah know. Maybe they'll share the good news with you when it happens. That's their choice. Lastly, we're going to be leaving here soon. That house you see behind me is a rental. Tam-Thong doesn't have any other family here, so we're going to move. We haven't decided where yet, but Fiji looks good. I can buy a home there, and it would be nice for us to live. Maybe we will go to the Maldives. That's also a beautiful place. Maybe I will buy houses in more than one country. It doesn't matter where we go. My folks will join us once we settle somewhere. Mom and Dad love their new grandkids. They also think the world of Tam-Thong and her loyalty to me. Bert, Irene, and Sarah will always be welcome too. They love the kids and spent a lot of time with them in Fiji. But not you three. You are not welcome wherever we end up living. Brad was quiet for a moment, then sighed. Vicky, I loved you more than any woman has a right to be loved. I adored you for more than 20 years, at least until you betrayed me. That's true for Mark and Jennifer too. I couldn't have loved you more, and I couldn't have been prouder of you until I learned what you really thought of me. Your actions showed me how little I meant to you. That just doesn't work for me. So that's all I feel for you now, apathy. You replaced me with I can no longer walk straight or perform, Nathan, and I replaced you three with the 3 behind me. There's no question that I've come out on top. That's it. We're done now and for the rest of our lives. I'd wish you well, but I honestly don't care what happens to you. Brad ended the call before any of them could respond. He leaned back in his chair, and for the first time in nearly 2 years, he felt good about his life. Back in the States, Vicky, Jen, and Mark sat stunned, staring at the computer screen. Mark was the first to speak. Who was that man? That wasn't Dad. Jennifer wiped her nose with her hand. Yes, it was, she said. It's what we turned him into. Vicky couldn't say anything. She was shaking so much she thought her bones would break. How could Brad have been so mean? It was just a small mistake, nothing more. Nathan only moved in because we needed help. It wouldn't have happened if Brad had stopped being so stubborn and came back home. Nathan helped with the money issues. That's all. The rest didn't mean anything. It wouldn't have happened if Brad returned, and poor Nathan wouldn't have gotten hurt. Vicky was sure Brad was behind the attack on Nathan. Somehow he had done it. Where do you think Dad is? Asia, right? Those kids are Asian, Mark asked. They looked Asian to you too, right? Yeah, he's somewhere in Asia. That woman was wearing something familiar, Jennifer said. Sarong? I think it's a sarong. They wear those in Thailand. Where is Thailand? Mark asked. Vicky slapped the back of his head. Language. Come on, Mom, I'm almost 21. I don't care. Watch your mouth. Jennifer looked up Thailand on the computer. It's a big country. Looks like the size of Texas or maybe Alaska. Dad could be anywhere there. Doesn't matter. He said he's leaving. Where did he say he was going? Mark asked. Either Fiji or the Maldives. What are the Maldives and where is Fiji? Near Bermuda. Seriously, Mark? Fiji is in the Pacific, not too far from Hawaii. The Maldives is south of India. Vicky couldn't move or think. Her tears continued to flow. Mark leaned back in his chair and sighed. Well, this didn't go as planned. I hoped once he saw us together he would forgive us and come home. He's changed a lot. That guy we talked to isn't the Dad we knew. He was like Dad with those kids. It kind of makes me mad. Why? Jennifer asked. Those kids love him, and he responds to that love. Dad thinks we betrayed him, and we did, even if we didn't mean to. I like Nathan, but he isn't Dad. We can't blame Dad for thinking we replaced him. We did, even if we didn't want to. Oh, come on, Jen, it wasn't like that. It was to him, Mark. He saw it as us throwing him away. That's what matters to him. Now he's thinking about himself. We have no place in his new life. We did that to ourselves. Vicky was shocked by Jennifer's words. It wasn't like that. Don't you dare say otherwise, she snapped at her daughter. Jennifer turned to her mother. It was, Mom. You started all of this. You. Mark and I went along, but you started it. None of us defended Dad. We ignored his feelings. We wrote him off when we let Nathan take his place. We were supposed to be there for him, but we weren't. What now, Mom? Are you going to sign the divorce papers? I don't want to. Do you have a choice? Jennifer pressed. No, I can't afford to keep things as they are, Vicky admitted. Did you really buy Nathan a car? Why? Isn't he rich? Vicky shrugged. I don't know, Mark. He was good to us during a tough time, and he said he liked that car. It was just a way to say thank you. I don't think others see it that way, Mom, but it doesn't matter. The car is totaled? Vicky nodded. Too bad. It was nice. That woman, Tamthong, she is really pretty. Vicky frowned, and Mark shook his head. She is, Jennifer insisted. She really loves Dad. I could see it. I don't like it, but I'm glad Dad found some happiness. That woman would fight for Dad. That's... Mom, he isn't coming back to us. That's our fault. I'm okay with him being happy. How can you... Vicky asked, horrified. It's not different from you finding someone to replace him, Mom, Jennifer said with anger. You did it first, and now he's doing it, Jennifer said, getting angrier. Uncool, Jen. Shut up, Mark. You're an idiot. So is Mom, and so am I. All you care about is Nathan's wrecked car. All Mom cares about is being with someone else and taking Dad's money. All I cared about was myself. None of us deserve Dad. None of us. Vicky's face turned red with anger. If that's how you really feel, she hissed. It is. I want my father back. You blame Dad for everything, but he didn't do anything wrong. You did. Mark did. I did. We're all selfish, so leave me alone. Stay calm, okay? At least he didn't call you a mama's boy. What a jerk. Just because I don't agree with him? Now I don't care if he ever comes back, Mark grumbled. Mark was also a bit upset that his mother didn't say anything about Jennifer's rude words. Maybe his mom was just too surprised by Jennifer losing her cool. Who knows? Nothing was the way it was supposed to be anymore, and that was really frustrating. Tamthong moved away from Brad as he continued the video call with his old family. She squatted in the shade, her hands resting on her knees, watching him. She thought he would be tense and angry, but he wasn't. In fact, he seemed more relaxed than ever. He was even smiling and playing with the kids. That made her smile, too. The children had flourished, living with Brad. They looked healthier from eating regular meals and had a safe place to stay. He made sure they had good clothes and were learning their letters and numbers, just like he promised. Both kids enjoyed learning, which surprised her. Their English, including hers, was still not very good, but Brad made them speak English for half the day at home. It was funny sometimes, but they were getting better. The other half of the day they spoke Thai, and Brad was improving too. He still used his Thai to English dictionary a lot, but was learning. She wasn't lying when she told Brad's unfaithful wife that Brad was the best man she had ever met. That's how she saw him, and that's why she offered to be his Tylok, which he pronounced T-lock. They had a few misunderstandings about what T-lock meant, so she brought in a priest to explain it. In Thailand, Tylok means additional wife. Tamthong didn't know what the word polyandry meant, but it was similar to Tylok. A man or a woman could have one legal spouse and multiple Tyloks, as long as they could support them. The main wife or husband had to agree to add a Tylok, but that was usually not a big problem. They often chose the new person themselves. This old custom was more common in the countryside than in the cities, but it still happened in cities too. Tamthong knew of 4 such families in Korat. Even with the priest's help, Brad misunderstood what she was asking. He thought Tilok meant mistress, and he didn't want to cheat on his unfaithful wife. That confused Tamthong. She didn't think Brad's wife had any say in his life anymore because she cheated on him, so her opinion shouldn't matter. Tamthong couldn't understand why Brad thought he would be a cheat. The priest tried to explain, but it made things more confusing. Tamthong didn't push too hard, though she wished she knew better words to explain. Brad used his dictionary, but it didn't help much either. One thing she was sure about, Brad not accepting her offer wasn't because he looked down on her. He treated her with respect and kindness, never like she was below him. The issue was the promises he made to his wife when they married. Brad was very loyal and serious about those promises. His belief in staying with one partner made him hesitate. She respected him for that, even if she didn't stop reminding him about her offer. Who knows? Maybe he'd change his mind living more time among the Thai people. Brad had been struggling for weeks. He had something on his mind but found it hard to talk about. All Tamthong could do was wait patiently. She thought it might be about her and the children. She worried he might leave them. So, when he was ready to talk, she was surprised to hear him say he was finally going to divorce his wife in America. He wanted to know if Tamthong still wanted to be his legal wife when his divorce was done and if she would let him adopt her 2 children. She was stunned, and Brad seemed nervous she might say no. Tamthong called the priest to the house again to make sure she understood Brad correctly. She understood, and she said yes to both questions. She didn't want to wait on the adoption, though. Brad didn't know either. Today, with that video call over, she would be Brad's wife. 10 months later, Brad and his family were enjoying their home in Fiji with both his parents and Vicky's parents. The house was big enough for everyone, with 6 extra bedroom suites still free. It was near the capital, Suva, on the main island of Viti Levu. Their home used to be a small resort by the water. It had gone bankrupt, and Brad got it for a very low price. Sarah couldn't come on this trip, but she had found her special someone and was on her honeymoon in Hawaii. Everyone hoped they would visit Fiji for a few days to see the family, if they could make the time. Brad's parents moved to Fiji 6 months earlier and stayed with Brad and his new family. They had their own bungalow for privacy, but shared the main living area with Brad and Tamthong. Meals were a family event every day. Their U.S. passports allowed them to stay for 6 months, and extending their stay was simple. Bert and Irene were visiting and thinking about buying their own home on the island for retirement. They were also considering living like Aaron and Grace, sharing the house. If they chose this, they would live in the suite they were now using. The living was almost cost-free as everyone just pitched in for groceries as needed. Everyone got along well, and Bert and Irene loved Tamthong, Kit, and Apsara. Kit and Apsara were proud to have Brad as their father, yet never stopped praying for their birth father. Brad wouldn't hear of it when Tamthong tried to talk to him about it. Tamthong was now 8 months pregnant and Brad's legal wife. All 4 grandparents wanted to be there for the baby's birth. Tamthong didn't reveal if it was a boy or girl, so the grandparents made guesses. Brad just wanted the baby to be healthy. "Dear Mom, I love you, and I always will, but I can't be near you anymore because of who you have become. You're not the loving mother I knew. Since you cheated on Dad, you've changed. You think you're still the same, but you're not. You've become selfish and bitter. You don't see it, and you blame Dad for everything that went wrong. But it's not his fault. You destroyed our family by getting involved with Nathan. First, you cheated emotionally, then physically. You thought Dad would forgive you, but he didn't. You call it sulking, but Dad doesn't sulk. He sees things clearly. When you betrayed him, and with the way Mark and I acted, he saw no reason to stay, so he left and didn't look back. I don't blame him. I can't. I helped push him away. The problem is, you can't see that you caused this disaster. You acted like you could do whatever you wanted, no matter the harm. You thought you had it all figured out, but you were wrong. Dad saw through you and left you embarrassed. You should have stopped seeing Nathan and tried to fix things with Dad, but you didn't. You made things worse by moving Nathan into the house Dad paid for. How can you not see you're wrong? This was your plan, but Mark and I had our parts too. We supported you, and Mark still does. I regret helping you and making Nathan feel welcome. Nathan? I hope I never meet anyone like him again. He's charming and personable, but he's slick and manipulative. Yes, Nathan always treated Mark and me very well, but in reality, he was no different than you, a manipulator, a con man. Just like you, he wanted what he wanted, and that was all that mattered to him at the end of the day. He didn't care at all about his part in what happened to our family. Nathan never said sorry for what he did, at least not where I could hear him, so I guess he just never said it. He got you, which is what he wanted. Heck, he even got a free car from you. That was a very dumb thing for you to do, Mom, just like all the bragging you did about it. Of course, Nathan didn't hide it either, telling everyone how he got the car. Was it really a surprise gift from you, or did he trick you into doing it and making you think it was your idea? Dad seemed to know that he was seeing other women besides you. I thought a lot about how he knew. There is only one way Dad could have found out, and it would have been through Grandpa Bert, who probably heard Nathan bragging at work. It makes sense if you think about it. So your perfect replacement for Dad wasn't all that perfect, was he? Nathan, just like you, is just a plain cheater. A snake in the grass, just like you, Mom. I tried to talk about all of this with Mark, but he doesn't care. Mark only cares about himself, and nothing else. Can you believe he is still mad at Dad for calling him a mama's boy? Mark really needs to grow up, and I fear that will never happen. He, like you, ignored me. So who could I talk to when I wanted to clear my head? Who else? Grandma Irene. She doesn't mess around. That woman sees things as they are and cuts straight to the truth. I can tell you honestly that she did not take it easy on me either. She tore me apart, Mom. She wouldn't accept any excuses from me. God, I love her. Talk about respecting someone, having someone as a role model. That would be Grandma Irene. She has my respect and admiration and will for the rest of my life. So, you're wondering where this is going. The simple answer is that I have left home. Home being you and Mark. I no longer have or want a place there with either of you. You're probably also wondering why I am saying this in a letter instead of face-to-face with you. There are two reasons for that. One, you don't listen. You refuse to listen to anything that doesn't agree with your way of thinking. I am sick and tired of you ignoring me while blaming Dad for what you have done. No more. Two, I know very well that I cannot sit with you face-to-face and resist you convincing me to keep going along with you. I wish I were strong enough to stand up for myself in front of you, but I am not. So I have taken the easy way out by leaving this letter for you to find. It shouldn't surprise you to learn that I have left you and Mark to be with Dad. I don't know where Dad is exactly, but as you read this, I am on a plane going to him. He does not know I am coming. It is my hope he will allow me to drop to my knees and beg for his forgiveness. I will gladly do that in front of everyone to have his forgiveness. I can only pray he listens to me and believes me. I want my father back. I will do anything to make that happen, even though I am afraid he will reject me. You don't need to wonder where I got the money to make this trip. Think about it. Grandpa Bert and Grandma Irene. They have given me the money to be with Dad. They are with him right now, and both have promised me they will help me convince Dad that I am sincere in wanting him back. Not briefly, but permanently. Gram will be hard to convince, but I will take without complaint whatever she thinks is the right punishment. Dad still may not choose to forgive me. If that happens, I will find a job and live as close to him as I can for as long as I can. That is my plan at the moment. In any event, I will not be coming back to you and Mark. I am burning that bridge. Only you and Mark can ever rebuild it. I will not lift a finger to do so. You two decide whether you want me in your life or not, and you two do the work to make it happen. There is another thing that I truly want besides receiving Dad's forgiveness. I want to meet my new brother and sister and be a part of their lives. I pray Dad and their mom, Tam Thong, allow me to do that. I want to know her as well. Tell me, Mom. No, ask yourself these questions. Try your best to answer them honestly. Is our family where you thought it would be when you started all of this? Did you imagine this utter destruction of our family when planning your affair? Did it even occur to you that this might be the end result? Do you have a solution worked out for what you have left of your marriage, your family, your life as it now exists? You permanently lost Dad, and Nathan has little value to you except for conversation, perhaps. Perhaps not even that. What is your next move? I was not lying when I started this letter by saying I love you. I do. I will miss you very much, or at least the mom I once had. You today are not that mom. Does she still exist? Can she ever come back? I have said everything I need or wanted to say. There really isn't anything left for me to say, is there? I love you, Mom. But I don't like you. Jennifer Brad was sitting out on the deck facing the water, sipping his drink, enjoying his peaceful moment, thinking about what Irene had told him in confidence just 3 days earlier. Nathan. Nathan had certainly been dealt with, and yes, in a very harsh way. Brad hadn't had any part in it. He found out later, and when he didn't judge anyone. But he did shake his head a bit. He even smiled privately. Irene, Bert, Grace, and Aaron. They all pitched in and hired someone to take care of Nathan. Brad chuckled to himself, thinking how his mom might have preferred a harsher punishment for that terrible man. Maybe she was even the one who decided what should be done. Brad would never know for sure, but he did know one thing. Nathan would never hurt another family again. That's what their revenge was all about. Brad loved those 4 amazing people even more because of it. Family meant everything. Jen knocked on the door. She had never been this scared before. She had all her belongings with her as she stood at the door of the man she had wronged so badly, praying for the forgiveness she needed so much. A woman answered the door and said something Jen didn't catch, but Jen knew her right away. The woman was even prettier than she remembered and was very pregnant. Tam Thong? My name is Jen. Jennifer? You might not remember me. I remember, Tam Thong said, her face showing no emotion. There was a long silence. Jen was shocked to see that she had come to the right house, and even more surprised to see Tam Thong. Emotions overwhelmed her. Is Brad here? Tam Thong looked Jen up and down while holding the door. She nodded and motioned for Jen to come in. You wait here. Leave your bags. Jen watched as Tam Thong went into the house. She looked around and saw that the home was cozy and lived in, but not messy. She heard kids playing down the hall and perked up at their happy noises. It sounded like Brad was with them. It reminded her of when she and Mark played with Brad as kids. The chatter and laughter stopped when Tam Thong spoke. A few moments later, Brad came out. Seeing him made Jen drop to her knees. He looked great. She wiped tears from her eyes so she could see him better. Jen, wow, what a surprise, Brad said, walking over. Dad! Jen couldn't hold back anymore and rushed to hug him, putting all her love into it. But she noticed he didn't hug her back much. I'm sorry. I know Jen began. Come on, let's go for a walk, Brad said, cutting her off. His tone wasn't angry or mean, but very calm. There was no feeling in it. Jen nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. She knew it would take more than a hug to fix things. Brad had almost shut her out during their last Skype call, but now he was willing to go for a walk with her. She felt a glimmer of hope. They walked in silence for a few minutes. Jen saw Brad looking around, truly noticing everything. Was he enjoying his new life more? Was he avoiding the tough talk? Or was he just delaying saying goodbye again? Jen decided to speak up. She's beautiful, Dad. Who? Tam Thong? Brad asked, snapping out of his thoughts. Yes, she is, in many ways. I'm glad you found each other. Thanks, Brad said. Another long silence followed. Then he stopped and faced Jen. Is that what you came all this way to say? No, I just don't know what to say. You came all this way and don't know what to say? Jen laughed nervously. It sounded more like a choke. It's not like there's a guide on how to fix a mess like this. Language. Sorry, Dad. I'm just so nervous and scared. I feel like I'm losing my mind. So I'm sorry now because I might swear again. Jen sighed and took a few deep breaths. Dad, I left Mom and Mark. You did? What about him? Who? Him too, I guess. But he was never really in my life. I didn't spend much time with him or Mom. I even took a job at school to stay away from them. I talked to Grandma Irene a lot and she helped me see things more clearly. Dad, I feel so bad about how I acted. How do I make things right with you? How do I earn your forgiveness? You're the one who matters, not Mom, not Mark, and definitely not him. I left everyone and everything behind to find you. Why? I thought I made it pretty clear when we last talked. You did, Dad. But I took too long to understand. I love you, Dad. I know it might be hard to believe after everything, but it's true. It took me too long to see how much you mean to me and what Mom did to you. By the time I figured it all out, I thought it was too late. Figured it all out, huh? What did you figure out? I figured out what I broke. What do you mean, what you broke? I mean, okay. After you left, I noticed something. There was less joy in things. I was always getting angry or sad. Sure, I might laugh at things or find something funny, but it didn't last long. When the joke ended, so did the laughs. It wasn't like before when we were a family. Then I realized something. Family. You see, Dad? Years ago, our family fell apart so Mom could have her own fun. It hurt me deeply. You always taught me about the love of family, but now I was part of what destroyed ours. Mom convinced me that making her happy would make things better. Deep down, I knew it was wrong, but she kept talking me into it. She said it wouldn't hurt, but when everything went wrong, I realized I had messed up. I hurt you, and it tore us apart. Jennifer, it wasn't just you, Brad interrupted. I know it wasn't only me, but I played a part, and I shouldn't have. I followed Mom's bad ideas and ignored what was right. It cost me my dad and my family. You still have your Mom and Mark. No, I don't, Dad, not really. I told Mom we're done unless she decides to change. They need to learn what family means. I can't be close to them until they understand. Mom still blames everyone else for her choices. And Mark, well, I think he never really cared like I did. But forget them. Dad, whether you forgive me or not, I'm not going back. I came here hoping to earn your forgiveness. I want you to be my dad again, but no matter what happens, I'm not going back. What do you plan to do if I don't forgive you, Jennifer? Where will you go? Well, I have my degree, Dad. I graduated and applied for a teaching job here in Fiji, English and math. I have an interview next week. If you're still mad, I'll just find a place nearby and try to earn your forgiveness. I'm not leaving you again, Dad. I'll take any punishment you or Graham or Tamthong think is right. Brad looked at Jen for a moment, a small smile forming. You mean it? You're serious? I am, Dad, I promise. Come on. Where are we going? Are you sending me away? No, I'm not. You haven't met Kit and Apsara yet, your brother and sister. Jennifer gasped, tears filling her eyes. And you'll need to learn Thai. Those kids will keep you on your toes, Brad said with a smile. Welcome back to the family, Jen. Please don't treat this one like the last. I won't, Dad. Never again. Jen turned and saw Tamthong standing behind her with a smile. Tamthong hugged Jennifer and said, He waited a long time for you to come back. Be a good daughter this time. He's very happy now. Ha! I finally won one, Bert joked as he and Irene watched Brad walk Jen and Tamthong back to the house, his arms around both women. Yes, you did, dear, Irene said, patting her husband on the back and leaving with a smile. Aaron, did you hear that? I won one, Bert called, looking for Aaron but seeing Grace instead. Grace? Who do you think gave Jen the address? Grace asked with a big grin. Bert, we all love you, but you're always 2 steps behind Irene. It was Irene who brought Jennifer here. Grace turned from Bert with a giggle, ready to welcome her granddaughter back into the family. Epilogue. 5 years later, Vicky rubbed her face and wiped sleep from her eyes. Nathan grumbled about it being too early and tried to get a few more minutes of sleep before the alarm rang. Vicky smiled at the memory of Jen and Mark doing the same thing when they were kids. She realized it had been almost 5 years since she last heard from Jen. Jen was living with her father now, having received his forgiveness. She adored her new brothers and sisters, and they loved her too. Vicky allowed herself a moment to feel sad about losing Jen from her life before starting her day. Nathan's alarm went off twice. Him hitting snooze more than once worried Vicky. He only did that if his back pain was bad. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, putting a hand on his shoulder. "It's my back," he groaned. "I'll get your pills," Vicky said, heading to the medicine cabinet. She found the right bottle, only 2 pills left. She'd need to get more today. Nathan took a pill with a gulp of water. "Thanks, babe," he said. Vicky cringed at the term. It still felt wrong after 5 years. It should be Brad saying it. Nathan never even tried to connect with her in other ways. Not once in 5 years. How was she his babe? "You're welcome. You only have 1 pill left. I'll grab your refill at lunch." "Will you be okay until I get home?" "Yeah, I think so. I'll call in sick today. Call me if the pain gets worse. I'll find a way to send you some." "Thanks. Now go or you'll be late for work." Okay, love ya," Vicky said, making sure to pronounce ya and not you. "Love you" was still for Brad. It always would be. Is he calling in sick again? Vicky thought. How much longer would they keep Nathan at his lousy job? He was already on thin ice. It didn't take her dad long to fire Nathan after Nathan got beat up. Honestly, Nathan wasn't the same after that. There was very little of the old Nathan left. He had money saved but hated to spend it, leaving Vicky to pay for everything. Nathan now worked part-time at a grocery store, often missing work. Vicky doubted he'd last there much longer. She wouldn't complain, though. Marrying Nathan was her way of punishing herself for wrecking Brad and her family. She felt she deserved it. That's how she saw being with Nathan. There was no love or real care in their marriage, just her punishment. Vicky would bear that without a word. At least her sister Sarah had somewhat forgiven her. Sarah wouldn't visit Vicky or invite Vicky and Nathan to Hawaii to see her family, since Sarah wanted nothing to do with Nathan. But Sarah did call 5 or 6 times a year to talk with Vicky, always on holidays too. God, she missed her sister. Sarah still stayed in touch with their parents, Jennifer and Brad's family. He had 3 kids with that woman Tamthong. Now he had 6 kids, including Vicky's daughter Jennifer. Sarah shared pictures, but made Vicky promise not to tell anyone. She even sent pictures of Jennifer, who looked good, and so happy. Jennifer had cut all ties with Vicky and Nathan. Burnt bridges. Vicky didn't show the pictures to Nathan. They weren't his business. The pictures were just more of her punishment. A punishment she silently accepted. Maybe with Nathan's health, she might wake up one morning to find him dead. Would she feel sad? Probably not much. What would she do if that happened? She knew. She would sell the house and everything in it, then try to find Jennifer. She wanted her daughter's forgiveness. Vicky missed Jennifer. She missed her parents, too. She had tried several times to look up Fiji on maps, looking for where Jennifer and everyone lived, with hints from Sarah. She thought she might have found it on a satellite picture. It was very beautiful. Maybe if Nathan ever had the decency to die, she might go there. To Fiji. She would beg Jennifer and her parents for forgiveness. Maybe. It could happen. Lunchtime came quickly for Vicky, and she went to the nearby pharmacy. While waiting, she thought about how much Nathan's meds cost and was thankful for her job's medical insurance. Vicky had thought about quitting work. She had enough savings to retire comfortably. But that idea went away as Nathan's medical bills grew. It wasn't that she disliked her job, but there was no joy in it. Counseling helped her realize part of what made her job bearable was coming home to her family. After a workday, Brad would listen to her ups and downs. Mark and Jennifer would console her on bad days and celebrate the good. Now it was just Nathan at home, not caring about her day even when he wasn't drinking or on pain meds. "Pick up?" the pharmacist asked. "Yes," Vicky said, giving him Nathan's info. Along with pain meds, 3 other prescriptions were ready. Vicky sighed as she paid. Geez, Nathan was a mess, she thought. Since he left the hospital, it's been one problem after another. A piece of bone had to be removed. He had hearing problems. His meds gave him kidney stones. Other issues had come up over the years, but the latest was spinal damage, causing constant back pain. Vicky refused to ask what else could go wrong as she left the pharmacy. Apparently, life already had something lined up for her. Vicky saw her son, Mark, across the street, walking hand in hand with a woman who wasn't his wife. Mark's marriage to Chloe 4 years ago was one of the few bright spots since her life went downhill. So what was Mark doing? As quickly as she could, she crossed the street and hurried after Mark. He stopped in front of an apartment building, chatting happily with the woman. Vicky tried to catch up, but Mark leaned in and kissed her. Not a friendly kiss, but deep enough to know if she had her tonsils. Mark broke the kiss, looked happy, then his eyes went wide when he saw his mom. Quickly, he let go of the woman's hand, stepped back, and turned to face his mom. "Mom, it's not what—" Vicky slapped Mark hard, making him stumble back. He held his face where she had hit him. "Don't you dare say it's not what it looks like!" "It is exactly what it looks like. Chloe is the best thing that has happened to you, to our family, and you. Didn't all my mistakes teach you anything? You better get your act together and hope you can save your marriage, or you'll find out how bad it feels to lose the best thing in your life. Trust me, I've been there, done that, and got the divorce papers to prove it. Every day since then has been awful." Vicky turned and walked away quickly, not waiting to hear what Mark might say next. It had taken her years of talking to a counselor to understand how she messed things up so badly. But right now, she wished she had brought Mark to those same sessions. Her son was a selfish, shallow fool. Like mother, like son. The end-hey audience. If you liked this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.